Welcome to Backstage with Becca B with special guest Alexandra Silber. Hi everyone, and welcome to this episode of Backstage with Becca B. On this episode, I'm so excited to talk all about the new production of Brigadoon at Pasadena Playhouse with special guest Alexandra Silber herself.
Thanks for reaching out. I'm so
Of
happy to talk about
course.
this show.
Oh my gosh, I saw it on Thursday night. Finally, I was like so busy this past week, and then I was like, I must see this because everyone's talking about it.
I'm
Everyone's just
so
like
I'm so honored.
captivated.
I can't believe it's had the reception it's had. It's been incredible.
I mean, personally, after seeing it, I can't believe it because it was stunning and exquisite.
Thank you. Well, so how do we start?
So I want to start with basically how did you get into theater and
Oh,
all of because you do everything.
okay. First of all, I was born in Los Angeles myself, Cedar Sinai,
Hey.
where I lived till I was 9, and then my family moved to the suburbs of Detroit, Michigan, where I remained being raised. But I will say something that's really powerful and interesting is my body and my psyche always know, like when I land in LAX, my body's like, you're home. It's just, I don't really totally know why, but that's stuff like that is real. And um, I think it felt very significant, therefore, that this project was in greater LA. So when I was little, I think, like a lot of little kids, I signed up for little kid ballet and I sang around the house and like all of that stuff. But I think what I will say is that very early on, I I was I was a very deep, very contemplative, very serious child. All the baby pictures, I'm like very solemn. And I also it's I have an older brother, older half brother, but my brother is 15 years older than me, and so it's kind of a strange sentence, but my brother and I are both only children, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I was also by myself, and I had a lot of time to think about things on my own. And also, I think quite important about how I became myself was my parents were extremely loving but distracted because my dad had cancer. And so he was diagnosed almost immediately after we moved to Michigan. And so it was really my whole childhood, and eventually he passed away when I was 18. And I think that all of that combined set me up for, I think, an artistic posture, is I guess what I would call it. Like I had all of these questions about what it meant to be alive. And I think a lot of people go in different directions. Some go the faith-based route, or some go into sports, or I had these questions, and I loved deeply philosophically thinking about them and enacting them. And for me, the closest thing that captured that sensation was theater, because it was a combination of both the written word, which I loved, I was a voracious reader, and needing these emotions to sort of work themselves through my little body.
Yeah.
And it just felt like a absolute calling for all of those reasons. And then the other thing I think I would say is, I was actually talking about this with my co-star today. Like, when is the moment that you learned you could sing? And not just like,
Yeah.
it was interesting because what I remember,
Well.
yeah, was because it's sort of a different question, isn't it? Right? Like, I remember the sensation of singing and how free and exhilarating, and like, I guess what we would now kind of call like driving down the highway, no one listening, singing. But
Yes.
then I remember the moments, it was somewhere around second or third grade, when I would sing and I would notice on the other person's face listening to me that what was happening was positive. Do you know what I mean?
Like positive, like they were reacting like
Yeah, exactly. And then of course those kids are encouraged. And I think I was aware on some level, without it being named, that there was like talent. I was good at it.
yes.
And over the years though, I took classes. I was in ballet, I was in choir, I did all the plays, I loved writing poetry. I was always like a language arts English class whiz. That was definitely where I thrived. But when I was in middle school and then eventually high school, I went to a summer camp, which eventually I went there full time over the year, called Interlochen Center for the Arts, which is in northern Michigan. A lot of people have come out of that place, both of the camp and the academy. And that was a real safe haven for me of other weird artists like me that
Yes.
took it as seriously as I felt I was taking it. We're addressing it curricularly too, before college, and it was all about like getting into college for these things, really. But additionally, it was a almost like a fantasy playground for me that was equally about not being fully submerged in cancer care
Y-
for my teens.
Yeah.
So there was I think I look back on that time with a lot of fondness and like an idyllic filter, but I'm also deeply aware that I have a lot of guilt that I wasn't around to contribute more. Um, so I think all of that made me an artist, and I knew that theater was my art form. I think if I were to answer the question, someone's asked me this before, like, what is it exactly that you love? And I I know a lot of I mean, I'm an actor. One of the things I am is an actor.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of actors who that is my training and da da da. Um, I know a lot of actors that are like, oh, as long as I am up on a stage telling a story, if I'm on a screen telling a story, it doesn't matter what form the acting takes, embodying another person's life and breathing life into that character is why they're here. And I don't feel like that. I feel like my skills as an actor are one of the ways that I contribute to the theater, which is the thing I love.
Mm.
And if I wasn't a singer or couldn't act, I would have found other ways up until this point to contribute to the art form,
Yeah.
a myriad of things from design to stage management to writing. And it turned out the way it turned out, right? But I think that the art form of the theater is the thing that has entranced me. And I consider myself to be a theater artist. Um, and so it didn't feel like a huge extension to write for the theater. It didn't feel outside the norm or something that felt completely crazy. And I've also had the privilege as an actor of being a part of a lot of world premieres. So I think I've also borne witness to the fact that like new plays happen. Like they happen
Yes.
all the time and it's wonderful and we get to hear all these new voices. So it didn't feel quite as mystical to me.
Mhm.
But sorry, that was a really long answer. But anyway,
No, it's all I mean, I was just like reading your bio and everything. Just
thanks.
I mean, I've seen your name so many times on all the things.
Oh, you're so sweet.
But
Thank you.
reading your bio, I was like, she does it all. Like
Oh.
literally all of it. I mean, you kind of like dove into that, but when did you realize that like balancing all that was something that you could do? Because I feel like
Yeah.
the balancing is the
You
most
know, that's a
challenging.
great question. Like, I think the way anyone balances anything, in the sense that I feel very strongly that it's all coming from the same fountain, right? Like, it's all coming from here and here. And the question I always ask myself is, how may I serve? And if in this project it's me serving as an actor or as a singer or as a singing actor, or if this project needs me to contribute thoughts so that the brand new play can develop,
Yeah.
fine. If it needs me to literally write the words, fine. Um, I think I just sort of feel like I know I have a lot of skills, and project by project, some of them are more relevant than others, and I will just get them out and whatever works. And but yeah, it all feels like it comes from the same place, from the same source, right? The same like
You're creative.
almost like yeah, like almost like there's like a well, and the water's all
Yes.
from the same place, used in different ways. And the
Yeah.
balancing is really just about like I mean, sure, time management, energetic
Right.
management. Um, but we all do it, right? Like we all go like I have to
Oh,
go to bed and then I must buy groceries and I must it's the same thing. It's just about projects and the way you're using yourself.
yeah.
And I will say this that for Brigadoon,
Yes.
I think I knew that I was when this production at Pasadena was happening, that I was about to engage in something I had never done before. And I will say like sure there was some anxiety, but it was like I am anxious because it's new and
Yes.
I'm a little nervous because I've never done it before, but I know I can do it. And it
Wow.
was the metaphor I used before Brigadoon started. People were like, "How are you feeling?" And I was like, "Well," um, I said it was like standing on top of a waterfall, like a beautiful waterfall with a pool at the bottom, and going, I mean, it's high. And
Yes.
I've never jumped like this before. I've never jumped this high into a pool of water. I've never done it before, and it's really, really high. And I'm pretty sure it's going to be fun and exhilarating, and that the water's going to be warm at the bottom. But it's high,
It's
and
scary.
that was the feeling I had. Does that make sense?
Yeah, like it's scary, but it's
Yeah,
exciting.
yeah. It's both, and I think I'm having an appropriate response. So what
Oh,
I will say though is
absolutely.
that. Oh, sorry. What did you say?
I was gonna say absolutely. Like that's
Yeah,
definitely like a natural response
totally.
to something that you are trying. Yeah,
And
that you
I
were
think
doing.
for me, what I definitely did that was different was usually my world is a little bit more, at least in my adult life, it's a little bit more even in terms of like the pie chart of my life. Uh, there's the teaching and there's the acting and there's the singing and there's the this, and this was much more like my world is going to be oriented around this 10 weeks. And it was for about a year, I would say.
Wow.
And everything was sort of about its relationship to this project because I knew that it was going to be like going to get a PhD in how to be a book writer of a huge musical, and that I was just going to be downloading and growing and being uncomfortable and learning things about myself and learning things about I was just it was I would get to the end of every day and I was so worn out up here and like
Oh
starving
my
because my
God.
brain had consumed so many calories of just thinking and learning. And yeah, I mean it was the right thing to do to orient my life around this project because I just grew and learned so much.
I mean, the story is, and I feel like I've talked to so many people who are musical theater fans
Uh-huh.
about this because I personally like, of course, I know like Schmigadoon because of the show happening.
Uh-huh. And you know the gist, right? Like you were like, "Oh yeah,
I
yeah."
I was familiar with the gist, and I was like, I knew about like because of the TV show that
Right.
was the recent TV show that's kind of like loop based off of it, but I hadn't really heard much about Brigadoon in the past, and I talked to other musical theater fans who hadn't as well, and I was like, okay, so I'm not the only one who hasn't heard of this beautiful show.
Yeah. It's
Oh,
oh so sorry. Yeah, sorry. Keep going.
so I was gonna ask, what was your first introduction to Brigadoon?
Sure. So I think like a lot of people, my first introduction to it was the film, the 1954 movie. I was like a big one of the things my parents did really well was they raised me on a lot of classic movies, and I loved classic movies, and I would watch a lot of Turner Classic Movie Channel and AMC. Like I was just like, classic film buff girly growing up. So I saw the movie and I loved it because I love musicals, right? And I don't
Yes.
think I even really realized how much the movie itself veered from the original book of the musical. It was very dance centric, and it was still a part of the era where MGM had contract players and they assigned people to different roles rather than
Mm,
doing an audition process. And so they built things around people's talent. And the two leads, Gene Kelly and Sid Charisse, were like two of the best dancers on
and
earth.
yeah,
So it was much more of a dance film, and it was much more about the central love story. And in its way, there's a beauty to it, but it's very much a product of its time, just like the original. And
yes.
in a funny way, almost like much more masculine and much more, mid-century American values. And then I saw like a local production in community theater, and I was like, oh, this is so different from the movie. I think I became interested in it. And also learned that the original had all of these other songs and characters and subplots that were so expansive and interesting. But I think a part of me going, okay, like it's a little old fashioned,
Mm,
and yet this gorgeous score and these interesting characters. And I sort of left it there. I've always been, in my career, I've been a classic musical theater ingenue for the first like 15 years of my career. I've done a lot of Lerner and Loewe. I've played Eliza Doolittle, I've played Guinevere, I've done
yes.
Fiddler on the Roof, I've done Carousel, a lot of Rodgers and Hammerstein. I think I've sort of lived in that world and became conversant with some of these songs, sang some of the Brigadoon songs in like concerts I did.
Stunning.
Um,
Most stunning musical theater songs.
Totally. And that was just my voice type. I was a very classical soprano and I loved it, and I felt like I understood the era. And I think another thing that was really crucial, big picture, is that because I loved these musicals and because I spent so much time inside them,
Yeah.
portraying them, I took them seriously as art. I didn't think of them as light entertainment. I didn't think of them as less than a play. I took what they were doing seriously. And people are always like, yeah, and not to say that I don't have a sense of humor about them. Like I love Schmigadoon, right? I think it's
Oh, yeah,
great.
yeah.
I'm not grouchy about it, but I think like it is a different thing
Oh,
to look at these
absolutely.
works and really try to excavate them.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I have found to be true I would say in like the last 30 years, is that some of these adaptations or takes, not always changing words, but sometimes like production choices, but oftentimes
Yeah.
adaptations specifically, I can just tell are done by people that don't like musicals. They're like apologizing for the art form and trying to make it something it isn't. And that isn't how I feel. I just feel like they're a different genre of storytelling that I have so much respect for. And in terms of my relationship to the piece, I always knew there was a place that crossed over because when my dad did eventually die, I don't know if you read the program note, but I got on a plane and I moved to Scotland. I just went to school there at the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland and got my undergraduate degree. And it was a place that really saved and healed and illuminated me and caught me in this incredibly tender time. Sort of two types of tender times at the same time, like immediate aftermath of grief, but also just being 18, 19, 20 it was,
Oh,
it was so,
Lordy.
yeah, and it was also a very different world. It was right after September 11th. It was, it's just like everything was sort of shifting globally. Um, and so I think I always knew that there was like a crossover between the classical musical theater side of me and the part that was still so connected to Scotland. And I remained involved in my school too. I'm on the board. I'm on the international advisory board there, and I go almost once a year. It's I have a relationship with the country and the
That's
place.
amazing.
So yeah, I
Community.
guess that's how Brigadoon kind of has always been coming back.
Yeah, I was gonna bring up this how you went to school in Scotland because I saw that and I was like, that's really an interesting connection.
Totally.
Also, did you have like how much input did you have with the sets of this production?
Oh, well, so the or very little, but I loved it. So I will say this, like the way that it kind of works in general with production. So the order in which this all happened was I
Being on it.
I rewrote the book
Yes.
by, I would say, draft three. Both estates, the Lerner family and the Lowe Foundation, approved it. And it was like all systems go, who wants to do it? And the people that sort of like won that bid was the Pasadena Playhouse of several theaters. They're like, we want to do the world premiere. So by this point, just to like in terms of like the people involved, right? The Lerners and the Lowes have allowed me to write this at all. They've approved it. Then the theater has been locked in. And once the theater is locked in, I'm locked in, the theater's
Yeah.
locked in. Now we're like, who's going to direct it, right?
Yes.
And after that, we found, you've probably seen this like all over social media and in every interview we do, like in many, I mean, it was miraculous, but the person that of my dreams to direct this production, my first ever experience of this was Katie Spellman. I really wanted it to be a director choreographer because the worlds are so unbelievably the storytelling, so much of it happens musically and through movement and dance. And I wanted it to feel as seamless as possible. But equally, I knew that Katie would want to do it together rather than like, thank you so much for your beautiful play. See you at opening, which is also fine. I would have made that happen and been fine with it. But this was so extra special because it felt like we were really doing it in tandem. And when she got approved by the estates, Katie was the person that did most of the selecting of the team of designers. So Jason Sherwood
Yeah.
was her choice. She's worked with him several times, and he's Emmy-winning
Oh,
world-class designer.
so good.
And so much of it was based on my script and some on our travels to Scotland and a lot of his own research. And so all of the design team's inputs were things that began once Katie was in place.
Oh, it's just like so stunning. I
I
can't
know.
imagine like what was your reaction seeing everything like coming together for the first time, honestly.
I remember for the first time I saw the drawings, it was just like, it just at every stage, like there was never a stage of it where I wasn't completely blown away and like, this is happening to me, this is happening, like,
Yeah.
but I just felt that Jason really understood the world we were trying to build and equally the world of Brigadoon that he created, which was so central, that the bridge was so central, and that Brocky's Tavern, which has never been in, I invented Brocky's Tavern, and his invention of and manifestation of Brocky's being made real and made manifest was so powerful. But equally, what I loved was that in the face of when you go to Scotland, one of the things you notice is this sense of space and sky and mountains and very specific color palettes because of the quality of the light. And it's just open, open, open space, space, space. And that equally, I loved his design of the bar in New York, which felt like a black hole of modernity. And that suddenly Tommy's world was so small and narrow and dark. And just it's incredible how much storytelling can be done through design.
Oh my gosh, I wanted to live
I
there.
know.
Like
It was gorgeous.
I
Oh,
was
the
like, wait.
lanterns and the everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, wait, I'm moving into Pasadena Playhouse actually.
Yeah.
Like what is going like this is it and it helped with the storytelling so much. Also, you mentioned inventing the tavern,
Yeah.
and I want to ask what were aspects that you felt important that were important to keep in this
Yeah.
versus change and add?
Okay, so I think of it, the best way to kind of do that is to talk about the old script and some of the like the overarching things because a lot of them are woven together. So, when the estates and I were in conversation, there were a couple of guidelines, right? I wasn't allowed to change the central concept of the fantasy, the love story fantasy of a town that for some reason disappears every 100 years and only appears every 100 years in our timeline. Like that had to remain. So the concept of the miracle had to remain. The reasons behind it could change, but that was crucial. And of course, big picture wanted to keep the main characters somewhat recognizable and keep as much music as possible. The things that needed to be addressed, and the estates agreed with this, was the way that women were regarded, portrayed, spoken about, the authentic Scottishness of the overall piece, returning the Scottishness to itself in a way. And beyond those guidelines, I kind of went off on my own. And what the first thing I will say is that the changes I made to the women were did a double achievement in the sense that 18th century Scotland, I didn't have to create anything. There was a much more balanced matriarchal society that existed. It really existed outside the sort of like patriarchal norms we almost assume about every European location now, but it was not that way in sort of pre unification of Britain, Scotland. And so it made sense to me that they had female pillars of the community that were leaders of culture and wisdom and held leadership positions and stuff like that. So the change from Mr. Lundy to the Widow Lundy felt obvious to me. Like the person who kept those stories and led those rituals would absolutely have been a woman. It is strange
Oh,
that it wasn't to me. So I just sort of, that felt like a return. Naming her the Widow Lundy and her
yeah.
being closer to 80 years old, what I think also implies that this is a town that has lost a lot, right? That those losses are ancient and old as well as very, very recent. And then I think the most problematic character I put in quotes because I don't want to disparage the original creators because look what they made. Look at this beautiful thing that we are now so removed by. But I just say, like, look, it was two men in the 1940s who were products of their time. Like one interview I did was like, oh, the misogyny. And I was like, I don't know if misogyny is the word because there's like an intent behind that word. It's like the person hates women when actually they're sort of just like a product of a vaguely vanilla flavored misogynistic society.
Mm-hmm.
So like
Factory texture,
but
yeah.
I didn't know these people personally, so I don't want to like put intent inside, you know what I'm saying?
Oh
But what
yeah,
I will
of
say is
course.
that the way women are portrayed and the jokes that are made are products of their time, and they are not funny anymore, and they're not amusing anymore, and we can do better.
Yeah.
And the first thing I'll say is in the original, 1947 was sort of a real change, like there was a lot of change in the air, right?
Yeah.
1943 and 5 were Oklahoma Carousel. So this like notion of really serious storytelling through song and dance was in the air, but it was only a few seasons old. And there was still an operetta tradition, right? Where there were like stock characters. And it was like the American version of almost like Commedia dell'arte, right? Where you're like, oh, right, the leading man, the ingenue, the comic relief, the big bad guy. Like, they were the same in every sort of story and we recognize them, right? And
Oh yeah.
Meg Brocky was in that mold, was the what's called a soubrette, right? Meaning, and following in the tradition of Ado Annie and Carrie Pepperidge, right? The comic secondary character who is often very, let's just say, amorous and has a light storyline. Doesn't hold any dramatic story weight. Like comedy is her
Like
thing,
no
and she
backstory.
sings, right, exactly. And in the original, she is like a 22-ish year old milkmaid whose objective is to get married And the way she's going to do it is by tricking Jeff Douglas into having sex with her, so he has to marry her. And I was like, we can do better. And what I also felt I couldn't believe was, how is it possible that there's a musical about Scotland where there's no bar? That's insane.
That
Like,
is
we
like
have to have a bar,
what?
right? So I was like, there has to be a bar. And it all sort of came to me there were a couple of things that gelled at once. One, in the original, the reason behind the miracle was also not ideal. It was that the outside forces were pagan witches. They were paganistic witch women that were coming for their good, wholesome Christian way of life.
Ooh,
And they attacked they were running from and attacking these evil sorceress women. And I was
no.
like I'm just like reading two sentences of it, you're like, this is unplayable,
You're
right?
like, absolutely.
And one of the things that occurred to me right away was, okay, hold on. One, we don't need to bring women into this. That's insane. Two, returning to historical accuracy of the 18th century. The 18th century in Scotland is filled with unbelievably huge dramatic battles and battle cries of indigeneity of these people, right? Of going, we are being invaded by the English, by the British, we're being taxed, we're being told we can't speak our own language, we're being told that we can't wear our own clothing or play our own instruments or do anything that matters to us. And they're moving further and further and further north. And it made such sense to me. The Jacobite rebellions were happening 1715, 1719, and our play takes place in 1726. And they would be in the wake of losing hundreds of men and boys to these very recent battles. And I just thought that's why they would want this miracle to occur. They would want to protect their way of life.
Mhm.
And so tying it to historical accuracy then led me to, and there's got to be a place where the perpetuation of this culture is made manifest. And it made so much sense to me that that would be a 50 to 60-year-old woman who ran a bar where she spreads the Scots language and shares Gaelic music and teaches ceilidh dances and serves traditional food, and that would be the center of life in Brigadoon. And so all three missions came together in Brocky's and
Oh,
in the new Meg Brocky. And like now the songs she sings, which used to be literal, like, and then I met this man and it didn't work out. And then I met this man and it didn't work out, are now pub songs, right?
yes.
They're
It's so
just
fun.
songs that teach Jeff Douglas about the history and
What's
culture
good?
of Scotland. And then beyond those things, I aged up our protagonists so that
Ooh.
Tommy and Fiona in the original are like 24. And in mine, they're between 40 and 50 years old. And it was just really important to me to have a story that's about people who are on their last chance.
Or feel like they're on it.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think that does two things that are really important. The first is for Fiona, it makes Waiting for My Dearie a real mission statement because she clearly means it, right?
Hmm.
It's not like, oh, he'll come any day because I'm 22 years old.
No.
It's, I am clearly content to be alone because I'm currently alone and I'm fine. And I just trust that it's either that or nothing. And all of that language has been changed in my version. And I think another really crucial thing that I think Max does particularly devastatingly is that Tommy is a coward
Hmm.
and that his battle is not with anything other than I'm being presented with the truest form of happiness and life and aliveness, and I don't have the wherewithal to choose it. And I think everyone can relate to that,
Oh my gosh, yes.
right?
Like,
And how many times have we been presented with our dreams and we don't go for it? And in my stage
there.
directions, of which there are many, because I'm a stage direction forward kind of gal. Um, there's a line where in the moment that they're saying goodbye, he's like, I'm sorry, Fiona. In order to stay, I would have to have no fears, no doubts. But I'm, and in my stage directions, it says the words he cannot say are a coward. For it is his own self that has ruined him.
Mhm.
And it's just so important to, so that changes the dynamic utterly. And then the biggest change of all, I mean, it's like unrecognizable, is Jeff Douglas.
Yeah.
So in the original, Jeff, I mean, I'm about to tell you some
I
crazy shit. Did you
I could
watch the movie?
I have not. I need to.
You're not going to believe
I
it.
I I like I mean, I feel like because I am a film girly too. So I love film. I went
I
to
will say
TV
the
film
movie
school.
has its own beauty, right? It's not
Oh, yeah.
it's like not, it's just if you're watching it for the dance sequences and the like splendor of the NGM studio, but in terms of like a movie musical, it ain't The Sound of Music. You know what I mean? It's just but it has its
Yeah.
own, right? But Jeff Douglas was written for a very specific actor who at
Ooh.
the time was like a stand-up comedian, like a very popular
Yeah.
stand-up comic, like very much in the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel era of the 50s, right? He did, he toured around the world and they tailored this role to him because he didn't sing, right? And so they just made him this funny man. And basically his character was the wisecracking cynic with a drinking problem. Now, as an actor,
Like, you need backstory.
I
Yeah.
go, a wisecracking cynic that doesn't believe in anything, who has clearly, like, I would call it an alcohol problem.
Right.
What's wrong with him?
Like, why?
Yeah, what's wrong with him? And what happened to me that was such an aha was a couple years before all of this came into my life, I finished a run of Fiddler on the Roof on Broadway
Yeah.
with Danny Burstein as Tevye. And Danny was my papa. And we became very close. And I was also close with him and his wife, his now deceased wife, Rebecca, who was my complete idol as a young girl. As a young soprano, she was my everything.
Oh my God. She's
I couldn't believe like I mean I'll just like tell you a quick story. She's so much my idol that there was this one day when I was like walking to work and I was going in the stage door and she was coming out and she's like, "Oh, hi, Al." And I couldn't believe that she knew who I was. When of course like she's seen the show like 12 times. Do you know what I mean? Like of course she knows who I am, right? You know what I mean? Like
you're like, what?
right, but I was like I couldn't believe it. And then another just like an echo of this and just this is who Rebecca was. The night of the Tony Awards, we lost all the Tonys to Color Purple and Hamilton, and but it was fun, and we were at the Tonys, and I was like, "Oh, Rebecca, would you mind taking a picture?" And she's like, "Yeah," and she gets her phone out, and she's like, "Okay," and I was like, "No, I meant, could I get a picture with you?" And she's like, "Me?" And I was like,
Huh?
oh my God. Yeah. Okay. So that's who she was. But the point is, she had just passed away from ALS. Horrible,
Oh
so
my God.
cruel, so unbelievably premature. And the way that Danny responded to her death after the initial shock of it and horror of it was he and his best friend George got on a plane and went on like the great grief trip of 2021. And they documented the whole thing on Instagram and it was so adorable. And they're like, we're in Estonia, like at a pig festival. Like it was so ridiculous, right? And it went on forever. It was like they were gone for 4 months. And the second that I thought about it for even 2 seconds, I went,
Mm.
oh, that's what this trip is.
Yeah.
That Jeff's wife died maybe 4 months ago. And in seeing Rebecca die this way and Jeff's devotion, and I named the wife Rebecca after Rebecca
I
Winger.
I noticed that. I was like, now
Um,
I need to see it again because like now I'm gonna be even more emotional.
Yeah.
And well, I was already looking up tickets for next week. I'm like,
Oh,
I need
I
to go
do hope you see it again. And when he saw Rebecca go and Jeff's response, Tommy's engagement, he went, I just don't feel that way about this woman. I can't sign her up to be with a person who isn't capable of loving like that. And maybe 5 weeks ago, the relationship broke up and they're both picking themselves up and going on this trip. And I just thought that's what this is. And that's why he doesn't believe in anything and why he doesn't believe in a God and he doesn't believe in miracles and he just is drinking himself away. And my hope is that by the time we get to the New York bar, he's the character of Jeff has taken us down this rabbit hole we had no idea we were going down. And oh, another thing I should mention too is that in the original, Tommy's fiance still exists. He's still engaged. And
oh,
we meet Jane in the New York bar, and he breaks up with Jane because he just loves Fiona so much. And I was like, oh no, this just like was not passing any Bechdel tests. And I was like, no, the relationship broke up. Da 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 da. And literally, Jane is this character, and he's like, I'm sorry, Jane, it's over, and she leaves. And you're like,
oh, you're like, wait.
it's bad. It's bad. So, and then finally, I'll say that another big change is the death of Harry Beaton, which in every version, in the original musical, he trips and falls on a rock, and it's an accident. In the movie, are you ready for this? I don't
Oh,
think you're ready for this
maybe,
piece of
probably
information.
not.
In the movie, I'm going to look directly into the camera. Jeff shoots him dead with a rifle. With a rifle.
Okay, because wait, I thought for a second that that was that like something when they were on stage together. I thought for a second that that's where this was heading.
No,
And then I was like, okay.
no. And I actually had an entire draft. Draft five was what I called the Harry Beaton draft, where I was like, I have to create a person that just can't go on.
Yeah.
And I wonder if Katie and the Playhouse are going to let me do this. But I wanted the character to take his own life. It felt like the most psychologically realistic thing. And in a funny way, without moralizing or any philosophical or religiosity behind it, just in terms of the problem of the play itself, the least selfish choice. He's not going to kill the whole town. He can't go back, but he doesn't want to be here.
Yeah.
And it's a mercy.
So in love that.
It's yeah, it also shows the like corrosive power of love unchecked and the cost of being misunderstood. And Harry is the dark side of Brigadoon's miracle.
Yeah.
And oh my God, could that actor be any better?
Oh my gosh. No, I was like, my heart was broken. I
I
was
know.
like, this poor guy, and
I
just
love
like
them all
so in
so
love.
much.
I mean, also a Tommy being in love with Fiona, I was like, same, because like, how can you not be in love with with her singing?
I know.
Oh my
When they
God, was
sing
that too
together, it's
much?
like superhero shit. You're like,
I I was like,
I know.
what? Like, I
They're
need
both my dream come true. I'm very close friends with both of them. And
they're
I wouldn't say that I picked them, but I like was like, you know, they are they are remarkable and beautiful together and it's just such a believable love. And I don't know, they sweep you away and they make it all so worth it.
yeah, like, do they know they're perfect?
I know, I know.
Oh my God.
I've never, and Max and I are very close. Max and I are very, very close friends. And I've just never seen him go this deep. I've never seen his work be so unbelievably true and real. And he's turning himself inside out.
Well, the last time I saw him was falsettos, which was like very different.
Also incredibly intense, but like in a different
Yes.
way. I don't know, there's something about this work that feels very personal to me.
Oh, well, I can see from that like explanation you've involved a lot of what's happened in your life
Yeah,
in,
totally.
like
Totally.
intertwined in the show,
Yeah.
which is so beautiful, and they're meaningful changes. You're not just like making changes
No,
because.
I think that the overall treatment, I'll say this, what I wanted people to feel when they walked out of the theater was not like, wow, Alexandra Silber is so brilliant and like all her changes were so. I wanted them to feel, where has this musical been all my life? Why don't we do this? Right? Like it just, oh my God, I love it so much. I didn't want my fingerprints on it because that takes away from the experience. Where if I'm too present, you don't think about the characters and
Yeah.
your experience with them, right? And so I just wanted it all to feel, to honor the spirit of the original so that it had the effect it had on the people who first watched it.
I mean, that's literally what I said to Max after the show. Like, I
Makes
was
me
like, I
so
can't
happy.
believe that I've never seen a production of this before in my life. Where has it been? Why hasn't it done more?
It's just I hope I hope there's much more to come because it's
Oh,
just joy.
me too. And I think there should be much more to come.
I mean, we'll see. It's so many of those things are the magic of the gods and of funding and da da da. But the whole thing has been a dream come true.
Oh
So
my gosh. I'm thrilled for that I got to see this. I'm thrilled that it's like 20 minutes away from where I live
I
right
love it.
now.
Okay,
And
if you go back, there's
yeah.
this one moment I want you to look for. Um, One, in the wedding, when Jean and Charlie are doing their vows. Also, oh my God, them. We didn't even get to them, but they're
Oh
okay.
my
They're
gosh.
just sick.
The
Um,
dance.
but when they are doing their vows, I want you to clock Jeff on the left side of the stage.
Ooh, okay.
Okay. So just like now that you know everything, if you go back
Yes.
during the wedding, find Jeff. He's on the left side and Tommy's on the right side of the stage. Okay?
Okay.
Promise me?
I think I was so like they're kind of like dimmed, right? Because I think I was like kind of, but I don't know if I was reading into it.
Yeah. Well, now you will.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Also the dancing like in this production. I know you mentioned Katie and like the directing for
She's just like, there's nobody like her. And can you get over that grief dance?
like that's I've been doing dance classes and I'm not a dancer and I'm like dance is the most beautiful art form.
It's just so primal,
Like
and she's in touch with something.
to uh like end this, what
Yeah.
advice would you give young artists in this industry who want to pursue like multiple creative paths like you have? Because like
Ah,
from all your theater roles to this and
I think two really important postures. The first is something I've already said, which is always asking yourself, how may I be of service? So that's a good piece of advice for anyone, right? Like that could be like helping your neighbors get their medications or like being a good citizen. There's like all sorts of ways that we can serve our communities and our worlds. But if you're going to show up in creative spaces, rehearsal rooms, academic settings, like any place that's a creative setting, it's always going to be important for you to ask, how can I help? How can I get this closer to getting across the finish line? And I don't have kids, but if I did, I would be so happy to contribute to their theater education, from like sewing a costume together to working the scenes. How may I serve in this space is always going to be a really important question. And it might not always be in the ways that in which you fully identify, right? Like I'm not a costume designer, but I can sew, and today that's how I served.
yes.
I think secondly, when it comes to the multiple creative paths, it is so important to try things. I think we live in a world that is very immediate results oriented because of social media and now
Mm.
AI. we don't have a relationship anymore with this painting took me 6 months to complete. And the slowness of work and the depth and profundity of slow work is lost on us a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think that another thing that happens too is a lot of assumptions around the gatekeeping in the show business part, right? I can't do that because X, or I'm not allowed to da 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 because Y. And while I don't want to deny that those barriers legitimately exist in the world, they shouldn't stop us from having the valiance to give it a whirl. Because when I went to Lerner and Lowe with these ideas, they had every right to say no, right? But I went with the ideas.
No,
And if I
absolutely.
had told myself, well, why would they listen to me? That's ridiculous. I would never have walked through the proverbial door. So sometimes it's about just giving things a try, failing wildly, learning, okay, that's not what you do. But the endeavoring, I think that's the word. It's
Yeah.
important to keep endeavoring because you just never know. The worst thing that could possibly happen is you hear no or you fail and you get up again tomorrow and try again.
Oh my gosh. Yes. And I'm so glad that you went and asked because now we get to see this production.
Thank you.
Like
I'm
now,
so touched that it moved you and that you reached out and it was so wonderful to talk about this and I'm so happy to share in this time with you.
of course. And also, where can people follow you on social media to
Oh,
like keep up with you?
of course.
Yes.
I am at Al Silbs, ALSILBS on all social media. And I also have a blog called London Still. I've had it since 2007.
Oh my God.
I know, almost 20 years. Um, and it is alexandrasilber.blogspot.com. And of course, through my website, alexandrasilber.net. And reach out. I always try to reply myself and see you on the internet.
Yes. And your bio is just like so impressive. I'm like, what? Like,
Thank you. It's so funny you say that because, of course, to me, I'm still just like at home with my cat. Like I feel inside so the same. And it is amazing sometimes to look back and go, I've had such a wonderful, blessed life, but there's lots of blessings out there for all of us. It's not we do not live in a world of lack. We always need more stories. We always need new voices. We need we need your stories, everyone. Please tell them.
thanks for watching this episode of Backstage with Becca B. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Becca B Talks TV. Or for more exclusive content from this interview and more, you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Backstage with Becca B. Make sure to subscribe to my channel and like this video. Or if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, go ahead and give me a 5-star rating. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!